Hello, hello, hello. This is Dr. Troy.
And I'm Ben-Jamin Toy.
We're broadcasting from the Cohesion Culture headquarters in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, where even when it rains, the sun still shines.
You're going to hear real-time stories from leaders confessing their most crucial or recent uh-oh experiences in business.
Learn what their uh-oh cost them, steps they took to fix it, and how they planned
to not do that one again.
All right, welcome cohesive leaders. Dr. Troy and Ben-Jamin in the house, and we are joined by Natalie Bouchard.
Bouchard, that's right.
Bouchard, from Calgary, Canada, right?
Correct.
Excellent. So we are continuing our international theme, which is exciting. We love to start every podcast out this way, every interview. Tell our audience and us something about you that we would not find on your LinkedIn profile or resume.
I have 34 first cousins.
34 first cousins.
So how many is that? How many uncles and aunts is that?
Oh my God. Well, 8 and 9 on each side. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Big family. The last name Bouchard. Bouchard is actually really big in Canada, especially on the eastern side. Big families. I had to move away because I'd have to marry my cousin, you know.
That's funny.
Okay. Now that's funny. So do you know them all? Do you know them all like by name?
No, we don't. Like I'm not close with all of them. No.
Okay.
There's a lot of them.
What's the age span? Like, I mean, that's got to be, potentially 60 years of things. I mean, that's crazy.
No, we're like pretty much within, I'd say about the 15 to 20, 15 to 18
Wow.
years. Yeah. 18 years. Yeah.
Got busy quick.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
31, 34 cousins.
Fertility is not a problem in our family.
Yeah. It's cold and nothing better to do, right?
Exactly. I am from Timmins, Ontario, so there's a lot of snow and it's cold.
Wow.
Oh, I'm calling uh-oh on this.
No, yeah, we're gonna good.
I'm calling uh-oh. Let's go.
So, I love it.
Next question I've got is I'd love to learn something about you, character or behavior trait wise. So how would you describe yourself in characters or behaviors, or how would somebody else describe you if you were to leave the room, or what do you aspire to be known as?
And
Okay.
Not titles, not roles.
I've been told that I'm extremely solid. Like I've lived a life of OOs, like a lot of them, and people are just blown away how I am solid in all of it. I get that a lot. They're like, "Wow, this would have destroyed me. I can't believe how solid you are." So that's what I would say. Yeah.
But that's solid. We haven't used
No,
that.
that's
word
a
before. This is a
good unique word.
Yeah, great.
What else you got? Is it just, they only know you as
no,
solid?
They would say I have this obsessive, when it comes to alignment and seeking, I'd say for the last 10 years, I've done a lot of that. So they're like, Natalie's on like 12 designations and and I am a hardcore, seeker. So yeah, I used to be a hardcore seeker, I should say. But yeah, so a lot of people see me that way where they're like, oh, this woman, just go ask her. She's probably lived it or studied it.
All right, so I want to go back because solid was such an interesting word. And I think it's great, to say, hey, I'm a solid person. It's really good. But I think it'll conjure up different things for people. And I want to just make sure that we have a really good understanding. So what would be some other descriptive words that you could use to describe the word solid without using the word solid?
Stability.
Okay. Stability.
But stability for me, though, stability is not what people think stability is. There's the stability where most people are like, picture a river. There's a current, with that river, and most people don't trust that current. So they're holding on to the side of the river and they're like, and they call that stability by holding on to things. Really, life gets bumpy, right? Whereas stability for me is to allow and trust the current. And when you can move with the current, then you become a very stable person when things happen. Yeah. So that's my idea of stability.
Okay. And I like that. I think to me, I love the visual of the river. I'm probably going to
Mhm.
use that. You only
Because the
steal,
current of life, you don't know where it's going to take you.
yeah, you only steal the really good stuff. And what's interesting about that comment is this. I like structure. And so chaos would often be unsettling until I
Yes.
got this idea and I said, what if I allowed chaos to be the structure of the moment? Therefore, it becomes now a part of the fact that it's not that I am unstructured. It's not that I have chaos, because I can always get through it. There was never a problem getting through the chaos. It's just that it was unsettling in the moment. But now it's not so unsettling for me because I allow the chaos to really become the structure for whatever is happening at that time.
Exactly. And chaos is kind of part of it. And on the other side of it is innovation, right? But
Yeah.
we tend to, and again, chaos, like I always use the word restructuring instead of chaos so that I don't create chaos in the chaos. Because if my
Right.
nervous system goes into survival, I can create chaos with it, right? But if we could look at it like life is reorganizing something for us in that moment. And yes, it's shuffling things around. So, and if we're used to holding on to these things, it may feel a little chaotic, but it allows me to like kind of let go and allow the reorganization to happen. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So, what are some of the roles that you have? So, we talked about a descriptive way to describe you. What would be the roles that you have?
Oh my God. I am a single mom. That's a big role.
Yes.
I am also a cohesive architect, I call myself. I'm
Okay,
also
you have to explain cohesive art since you're using the word cohesive. You've got to tell us what is a cohesive architect.
Well, first off, let's talk about what cohesion is. It's when all parts of you, and you guys are cohesive leaders, so you know what I mean. But for anybody listening, is when your thoughts, emotions, body, actions are aligned, working together from the same center instead of pulling you in different direction. And so I come from a background, a pretty difficult, challenging childhood. And what ended up happening is that I lived off center. So I lived most of my life off center, and life bumps into you to bring you back to center, back to cohesion. And and I guess I have so much experience living off center that now I'm considered a cohesion architect, and I help people like you said, structure is important. And I think that there's a lot of information out there that is very woo-woo, unstructured, I call it. And when we understand the structure of cohesion, then our logical minds understand it and can work with it. So that's why I call myself a cohesion architect, something very different.
No,
But
I love
only
it.
life could have taught me how to be a cohesion architect, really.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And so I interrupted your titles. I want to come back to that in a minute, but I had to make sure that we knew what that meant because at first I was thinking architect. I was thinking of that you drew buildings, and I was like, I don't even know why we would.
The
Yeah,
architect
like
of the invisible. But just like an architect can't build a bridge, let's say, without following the rules of life, the
yeah,
laws of nature, of reality, correct? So it's the same thing.
yes.
That's why I use architect, because the structures I build are in alignment with the laws of life, nature, and so on.
Yeah, good. So what are some of the other titles you have?
Other titles, I'm obviously an aunt, godmother, um, I'm a volunteer. I what other titles? We have so many titles that to really think about. Yeah, I'd say like my biggest titles obviously would be the work that I do and my daughters. That's definitely it. Oh, I forgot about this part. I was a top athlete for many, many years, so I'm still considered, athlete. People haven't forgotten about my years as being a top athlete. So that's kind of a big title as well. I guess,
Well, that's okay. That was
nothing
really
else.
great. I actually think the thing about for you that I hear is that you are less defined by those titles, but more about your experience and about the work that you're doing with others. That I really, but it's really challenging when we work sometimes with leaders. They really identify themselves more with the titles that they have, author, CEO.
Yeah, I used to.
Else.
I used to be big on my titles. Now
Until
I'm
you,
like, I just say I have 12 credentials and I have 12 this, and I don't even know what they are anymore. I don't really hold on to them.
yeah,
But yeah, I really feel like, we are. That's why I love your show, because I really think it's not the titles and the things that happened or anything like that that define who we are. It's in those difficult moments, challenging moments, that really define who you are.
yeah. That's really great. We
Mhm.
appreciate that. And for our listeners to understand how we approach cohesion in that same grounding is we look at structure. And for us, cohesion evolves around three elements. And it's the element of belonging, which comes full circle when you have inclusion. And then it's a value, which is your meaningful work. And then your commitment, which usually manifests itself in collaboration where there's need and trust. So the whole idea around cohesion is that individuals will have an experience where they feel needed, valued, trusted. And that's how we embody the cohesion understanding in our cohesive leaders, which, sounded like initially that it matched up with you.
Absolutely. Just using different words and
Yeah.
different terminology. And mine is more on definitely on the personal level. Like, I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, but it's definitely more on a personal level. And I really believe professional is personal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do start more on leaders will come to me more on the personal stuff. Yeah. Like they're in the middle of a, divorce, or, things with their children or health, those sort of things. Yeah. The deeper things. Yeah.
So what are you prepared to share with the listeners and paint the story, give all the framework you need about the and then we will ask subsequent questions about
Yeah.
how it stopped, how you fixed it, things like that. So paint the picture for us.
Yeah. So before everything fell apart, I was like the person people came to for answers. I had decades of experience, certifications, years studying mindset, spirituality, energetics, business consulting, all of the things. And so I had built this dream life that personal development promises, basically the big waterfront home, the Range Rover, the relationship that I believed at the time was my soulmate. And I was teaching people how to create aligned lives. And then within about a year, everything collapsed. There was a major financial scam in my business, wiped out hundreds of thousands of dollars. My accounts were frozen. I had to sell my home. My relationship ended. You see who your real friends are and everything else when things collapse. And I'm a single mom. So at the same time, I found out I had abnormal cells in my cervix. And it felt like I got hit every single corner of my life at once. And I remember sitting in the dark one night and basically yelling at life, saying, I gave everything to this. I did the mindset work. I did the spiritual stuff. I devoted all of this. I followed all the rules. And this is the life I end up with. And the hardest part wasn't just the losses, it was the shame. Because when you're the person teaching people how to create, their dream life, and then yours collapses, you start questioning everything. But then something strange happened after the collapse. When everything I had built, my identity around, titles around, right, disappeared, I had nothing left to rotate around except myself, right? All the things I was attached to, we're talking about the river, everything that I was attached to, there was nothing to attach to anymore. So there weren't anything to cling to. And without realizing it, I started moving back into my own center. I returned to center. Nothing on the outside had changed. My circumstances were still difficult, but internally, something completely different began happening. And my nervous system started coming out of survival. And I began realizing something that shocked me, even with all of the training and credentials, is that I had never actually been living from my center. I really didn't know what center was actually. I wasn't cohesive. And then I realized how I have always been living fragmented. So I didn't know any different, only that life was always challenging me. And I did grow up in a depressed environment as a child, so it forced me out of center at a very young age. So what I realized was because I had never lived centered, which means I had no inner orientation, that's why I was always looking outside of myself for answers. And no matter how successful I got, I didn't have inner orientation. So that's why I was a hardcore seeker. And I realized, wow, I had been living from borrowed orientation from mentors and teachings and frameworks and experts. But when I started moving back into my center, something else returned too that this really surprised me because no one had ever taught me this, but that was my authority. Not authority over others, of course, but a natural authority within ourselves, authorship, internal agency. And the kind where you stop outsourcing your direction to the world. And this is something that is part of our psyche. And many of us, like myself, is not, it's not seated internally. And so looking back now, I actually see those uh-oh moments very differently because they weren't punishments, they were actual corrections, life removing everything that wasn't actually aligned with who I truly was. So in essence, right, these life bumps, I call it, that was my TED Talk. It was called Human Bumps. And so these bumps are guiding us back to our center. So I don't see life bumps as a problem anymore. I actually see them as guidance.
Wow. Really, this really, it's insightful to hear you talk about things in that way. Very grounded. I can see now why you use the word solid, right?
That's why they say that, yeah.
Yeah, because it's not built on a fragment of sand, but it's built on solid, solid philosophical view. So I'm just curious to ask you, when you talked about the various of things and you said, I think you used the word spiritual or something in your conversation, how impactful has that been to your uh-oh moment? The spiritual awareness?
Well, of course, I was starting to question everything because I realized that I had been borrowing things from others. It's true to them, but I had 12 designations, so I'm studying everything that belongs to other people, their OOs, their experiences, right?
Yeah.
And I'm studying that until I came, and this is what's so powerful about us leaders and entrepreneurs and so on, that these OOs is for us to reconnect to our inner orientation and for me to share with the world what is truly mine to share. And that's what it makes me very solid now. You know what I mean? Whereas before, I mean, it doesn't matter how many credentials you have. Embodiment means you're totally living it, that's
No.
So I see spirituality different. I don't see it as information now. I see it as an embodiment. I think a lot of people are missing that embodiment piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. So what did these bumps cost you in terms of, it's not just money,
Well,
but
everything. Like there was literally nothing left. Honestly, I'll be honest, like it's the worst nightmare of a single mom to actually be in a position where like even because I had come out and I had shared because I wanted to share full transparency. I always felt like sharing full transparency is how you're going to help the world, not hide. And so when I was sharing the transparency of my childhood, then my family cut me out. You know what I mean? So I was like literally like there's nobody to actually connect to. But what was interesting is that I found I don't want to sound cliche in all of this, but I call it a return to center. But what ended up happening is that because I was standing and not abandoning myself, and I actually would hug myself, like I would sit on the grass by the water in nature. And I just believe nature is such a powerful thing that us humans don't realize how lucky we are to have that. And I was sitting in the grass and just feeling, the earth and being protected and just holding myself. And what ended up happening, which was really powerful, is that I wasn't abandoning myself. I was staying with myself for the first time. Abandoning yourself means I'm doing something wrong, and you start feeling shameful and you start putting yourself down. And what I was doing was I was staying with myself, and I said, of course this hurts. Of course this is scary, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here with you. And I would use the, the name that they used to call me, like Natu, when I was little, and telling myself it's okay. And then what would happen, my nervous system would start relaxing and relaxing. And then I'd start moving into center. And what I mean by moving to center, I was just starting to recognize what is truly mine in this world, what I like. And I was starting to like remove people or things that didn't, do you know what I mean? That didn't honor who I was. And so I was starting to let go and let go. And the more I would let go and let go, the more I was like click into center. And then my authority came back online. And a lot of us women, for thousands of years, we didn't even have authority, right? Like we were, and this is not a man or woman thing, right? This is just a lot of women were not taught how to lead their lives, to stand in their authority. And now we have a lot of women leaders that adopted a nervous system that still is in survival and adapting to their environment instead of leading the environment because their ancestors were not able to lead. And so I never realized, and I was studying Carl Jung, and Carl Jung speaks about a lot of this, that, yeah, this authority. And I'm like, oh my God, this is, I felt like this relief because I'm like, what is going on in my body? What's going on? And all these choices I was making, which felt so solid. And because I was centered and I could self-contain myself and hold myself, then my orientation came back online. And then I was like, I know what to do. I know how to get it all back. I know how to move through this. You know what I mean? And that piece was like, and that's why looking back, I'm like, yeah, how much did I lose? Absolutely, absolutely everything. But I gained everything from it because now I don't fear ever losing anything anymore because of this agency that I have inside of me that is rock solid. Yeah.
So before you got to the point of being able to correct and change some things, I may have missed it. Tell me, understand the ownership of what did you take on and own that you were part of, whatever the things fell apart. What were the things that you did? What was the actual that you contributed to that you were able to make this transition from? There were some financial things and whatnot. Like what was the thing that you're willing to share?
Like because I was borrowing authority, I wasn't leading my life. And so what we don't realize, if we're not leading our life, then you are like, and especially my finances, I would find someone else that would lead it and take care of it because I wasn't taking care of it. You see what I mean? And so now who's drawn to that? What type of person is drawn to an individual that doesn't want to take charge of her own money and finances? You're going to attract scammers. And so, yes, like I recognize my part in that I did not want to take charge. I didn't have agency. I didn't have authority. I wasn't even centered. I was so fragmented. And then I didn't want to take charge of certain areas of my life. Well, guess what? All those areas of my life fell apart because it wasn't solid, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
And so it all happened at once. But also, if you're going to be the human bumps queen, I mean, I remember when it happened, I'm like, I don't want to be the human bumps queen anymore. You know what I mean? This is like, what kind of initiation is this? You know what I mean?
Every time you're like, well, that's another keynote.
Yeah, I know, right? Here's another story.
Yeah. So now, and so we hear a little bit about some of the things that you have received or you've evolved to having this center now and this groundedness and return to center that you have. How do you keep yourself from finding yourself in that moment where you weren't really mastering your life? You weren't really, staying true to center. You weren't having your authority voice within yourself. So what are you doing now to make sure that you don't go back there again?
Yeah, number one is I don't look at the challenges anymore. And I feel like life whispers to us first, and are we really listening to the whispers? There's always a misalignment there, you know what I mean? And so now I would say that I'm very sensitive to noticing the signals that life gives me with my kids, with my money, with all of the things in my life, and to sit down and be with it. I feel like to return to center is to be able to hold reality. A lot of us have a hard time holding reality, holding what's going on. And when we can really hold reality, we can really receive the signals and the intelligence. And when you receive the signals and the intelligence, you're able to address it before it becomes a freaking chaotic outburst. So now I'm really good at sitting with the reality of things, and it doesn't feel good. You're like, oh, okay, this is. But I know also that if I don't sit with it and I don't show up, do you know what I mean? And address it, well, us leaders know what's going to happen if we don't, right? And so that's what I've become really, really good at, and teaching other individuals as well as how to read these signals. And it's not that people ignore signals, is that if your nervous system is, a lot of human beings have abandoned their nervous system, right? And so if we abandon if you're abandoning your nervous system, then your nervous system has you avoiding and looking somewhere else, and I'll take care of it later. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. And so I would say that that's what's definitely changed.
Sounds like you also hit situations or issues head on versus before it sounded like you found somebody to handle the adversity in
Yes.
your life, and now you are addressing the adversity. So to me it sounded like ownership, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
That's the same thing. Authority, ownership, authorship, all that's the same word. I didn't have any of that. And you could be so successful, like I could bring in huge amounts of attention and revenue and everything else, but then in the back end, you know, you know what I mean? Somebody else can take care of that. Somebody else can take it. There's a lot of us want to delegate, but are you delegating to avoid? Right? And that's what I was doing. I was delegating to avoid, and that's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, great. So I know we've talked here for almost 30 minutes, which is kind of amazing that we've done that. I would like you to, if you could succinctly for our listeners, put your uh-oh moment into a sentence or two. Remind them what it cost you and then what you've done to avoid doing it again. Because I really, in listening to you, know how impactful this can be for people who have totally become oblivious to stuff that's happening around them. I come from a school of leadership that says that the choices I make are intentional. The choices I make drive my character. Circumstances are just things that are happening around me. That if I allow the circumstance to dictate who I'm going to be or how I interact with others, then I have been giving myself away to those circumstances and haven't been able to own it. So I want to just help those people who are listening now, because this is a great story. And by the way, you're a great storyteller, and I can get lost in the story, but I want to remember the main pieces now, because this has been so impactful. So if you could just do me that favor and just recap it very succinctly for us, then we'll have this as a really great clip to listen to again.
Yes. The most important thing is that we can trust life. Life is guiding you back to yourself, to center, to cohesiveness. And when we can, all of the things, the bumps, the things that are happening in your life, it's not happening, it's not hurting, it's not against you. It's not life working against you. It's actually life truly working with you. And it's helping you return to center. And once you return to center and you are leading life to at a whole other level, then you're attracting the people that are a perfect match for that. Like cohesive leaders are drawn to cohesive people. They are repelled by people that are fragmented. You know what I mean? So you attract quality people, you attract opportunities, you become magnetic. You there's so much that opens up for you, and you realize, and you look back, and I look back and I connect the dots looking backwards, like Steve Jobs says, right? And you look back and I'm like, holy crap, what an exciting adventure this is. And I'm so glad that happened, because what was I doing there? I was not really living my life full out. And now I'm living fully because of life guiding me back to center. And so this is truly like, this is what I believe, this is what I follow, this is what I teach, this is what I embody. And I really love to invite everyone the same thing. Like, you are never off path. You are exactly on your path. It's just when the bumps happen, the bump is trying to, pull you deeper in your path. Right? And so if everybody here can just know, because I thought I was off path, I thought I was wrong. You just know you're not off path. You are on path. You are exactly where you need to be. You just got to move through it. And when you do, and you're on the other side, you're deeper into your life, and truly you'll be grateful for it.
Yeah, and for me, I have lots of like visual things. Like for me, I'm thinking of it. When you think about this bump that you have, it's also an opportunity to have some introspective moments, right? So if you are approaching whatever that situation is that you're coming up to, it's yes, moving through it, but don't miss the moment to find out why that bump got there to begin with, and what can you learn through it. How can you use that information again? Because the reality is you're never going to stop the
But if
bump.
you don't learn, yeah.
Yeah, but you're learning from that. So you can't stop the bump. But what you can do is be better prepared for how you can process yourself through those.
Yeah, I believe if you don't learn from it, you haven't moved through it. You're going to stay stuck there.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's nothing is ever useless if it can. At least it's a bad example. It's an example. It's something that can always be a bad example. You want good examples and bad. It's like, well, don't do that, because that's what you get from it. So I think if you have that perspective that you can learn from everything, it's great. So
Yeah.
Natalie, what's something that you expected us to ask that we haven't asked?
Oh, wow. Well, most people ask out of curiosity about authority. And so you haven't really spoken much about natural authority, but I also know that, a lot of the leaders that are on here, they already probably know a lot about authority. So that's probably why
Well,
you
I'd love to hear your take on the authority then.
Yeah, so let's pretend we asked that question.
Yeah, well, so what I share a lot is that, it's just taking into account that there are a lot of women leaders, that for thousands of years, yes, a lot of us have exiled our authority. And so many of us, our nervous system knows how to adapt to their environment, does not know how to lead. And that was a hard thing for me to look in the mirror and to recognize that I did not know how to lead my life. I knew how to become chameleon. I knew how to like get into any environment, read the room, read people, become who they needed me to become. I was an expert at that, but that's survival, right? And
That's a
so I
great
didn't.
clip. That is a great clip right
Yeah.
there. What you just said, the difference between knowing how to get through it versus leading. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I love
that.
that. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, instead of the through is leading it. Yes, exactly. And so I didn't know that I wasn't leading my life. And also, it's recognizing, and I'm looking around and I'm like, there's lots of women leaders out there burning out. And the reason why is because, can you imagine? Like, I was so fragmented. I was one way with my relationships, one way with my, my man, and then I was one way with my kids. And like, I was so fragmented. Of course I burnt out. Of course everything fell apart. But that's what I was taught too growing up with my mom. It's like, you got to be, perfect for everyone and everything. And I'm noticing a lot of women leaders as well. And they're like trying to compete and try to make things work and force and push while they're fragmented. That's I mean, there's a lot of leaking of power. And then they're hard on themselves that they're not better. Well, actually, no, you're brilliant. You are beyond brilliant. But just when you're fragmented, you can only give so much power to things, energy to things. So, yeah, so that's why I share this, because I had no idea that I was living my entire life without any inner authority. So I couldn't lead life. I could only adapt to what was given to me. Well, that's not, those are two different things. And that's why life was bumping into me over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really, really awesome. So really appreciate you sharing all that. So how will our listeners be able to connect with you?
Well, what I've got going on right now is I have a Bump It Like It's Hot event. It's free. If anybody is interested in that, you can come join us. But if yeah, and it also includes like like a bump lounge. And so I answer questions in the bump lounge. And so if anybody is drawn to that, especially like women, like I attract a lot of women, of course, and you feel like, oh, maybe my authority isn't seated. Maybe, yeah, maybe I need to like find out more about how do you return to center and reseat your natural authority within your psyche. If you're interested in learning more about that, come join us and learn more. And it's kind of fun event, right? Bump It Like It's Hot. I think you guys would like that.
What's
You
what's
guys
the
like that
domain?
name.
Do you have a domain or a URL?
NatalieBouchard.com, and you'll
Okay.
find it right there where it's
There
like
you go.
join free event. Yeah,
That's
Natalie Bouchard.
NATALIEBOUCHARD for those listeners. .com.
.com. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well,
Awesome. Well,
Natalie,
thank you
again,
so much.
it was a pleasure having you with us. And we're going to close out this Cohesive Leaders podcast the way we do all of our cohesive programs with this simple mantra. You don't have to know everything.
Just need to be teachable.